Howdy, strangers. I'm that gamer dude, and today I'm going to be playing a game called The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Let's pick our subtitles here. Obviously going to go with English. Yes, I have played before. Played the original. Boom. Current time. 4:30. Oh, okay. I think it'd be accurate. Here we go.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
It literally narrates like everything I do.
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the one on the right.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire
what I wanted to do.
Ah, yes, truly
Beautiful.
A room worth admiring.
Yes.
It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Oh yeah. Alright, let's go.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
This one. Nah.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Oh.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your
we're
enemy,
good.
really, I'm not. I
Oh,
realize
shoot.
but in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. Alright. I'm not gonna jump off the
All of
edge,
his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Maybe I should just go to the meeting room instead.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
I already admired it last time. I'm just gonna walk right by it.
Yes,
Actually.
this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
I don't wanna.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Whatever.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me. I'm asking, this is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
What the?
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. To...
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting.
It sure
I'm just pulling
is.
the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha! Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Okay. Have you stop being rude to me?
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Oh.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence. Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do.
What else am I supposed to do?
Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Oh, okay.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Gotta spend time with the boys.
So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Oh yeah, that all happened in the other game, the first one.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Are you gonna let me out? No? Okay.
But there is no answer.
Oh, okay.
How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's
Look, I
doing is
understand I
pushing
made
the
the wrong
same
choice,
buttons he always has.
right?
Nothing has changed. The longer
me
he
out.
spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real
I don't
one.
think I can crouch. No, there's no crouch. Right. Go to sleep.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never
Let me
be
out of the
anything
room.
but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch
All right,
this.
I'll listen. Let me
Stanley,
out.
the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Alright, fine. I won't press it. I don't think anything happens if I don't press the button.
You see? Can he just not hear me?
Well, what was I
How
supposed
can I
to do?
tell him in a
Wait
way
for
that he'll understand that
30
every
minutes or
second he
something?
remains here, he's electing to kill himself?
No,
How can I
no.
get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Question
I
nothing.
suppose I can't. Not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules.
Oh, this
I
is
simply
my
play to
office.
my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled
Okay.
to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again.
Please die?
And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button.
Pretty rude.
And I tried.
Oh, alright.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Alright, I'll go to the meeting room this time.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
I was reading that. How to solve a dispute with a coworker. Let it ball up inside you. Take it out passive-aggressively on other coworkers. Using slides to assure employees that everything is okay. Make sure your slide has a slick blue graphic in the header and throw some bevel on all that text. Everyone is unique. You most of all. I don't really believe that, but thanks. Ah, yes, the closet
Stanley
room.
stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Step out of the broom closet, back into the broom closet.
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
Alright.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley
Ah,
walked
no, I wanna
upstairs
go back
to
in the
his
broom
boss's
closet.
office.
Dang it! Wait, did he say go up or down? Whoops. We're gonna go down. Spooky down here. Oh. Nothing there.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that.
Yeah.
And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all.
It was Thanos.
None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream.
It probably is.
What a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Whoa.
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life.
Can you make it so I can fly?
Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back,
I can still kind of see
the fresh air of a world outside this one.
I don't know where I am now.
Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job.
I didn't have a wife.
All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine.
That sounds boring.
I am okay.
Okay. But I'm still in the same spot.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other.
That's not
She
me.
rose, got dressed, gathered her
Stanley.
belongings, and
Oh.
walked to her place of work.
Dead.
But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, For just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
The end is never the end.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Yes, I know.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Alright. Wait, what? New content? Okay.
Oh, new content?
Oh boy.
What does that mean, new content?
I don't know, let's find out. For some reason, the way this game is,
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable
reminds me
Ultra
of
Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers.
sweet.
The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very
Sure
excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's
jump
just the
finally.
beginning of a mesmerizing
That'd be
adventure.
great. That'd be great. Even,
Is it broken? What's going on here?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Should we be moving somewhere or... oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready.
Hooray!
Let's do it. I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if oh, okay. Let's see the content. Gimme the content, Stanley.
Alright.
All right. All right, let's see it.
We can jump!
The jump circle?
Wait. Can we only jump in the circle? That's a troll. Alright. And we're limited to... well, now 35 jumps. I'm gonna save these jumps. For later. I might need these.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right? Goodness. Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait, there's more.
Oh,
Very
boy.
good. Yes.
Hope so.
I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
Huh. Is that like a bottomless pit right there? Yep, that's great. Thank you for knowing
That's
the
it?
content.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fanbase rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game, and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
I mean, I don't really have a choice. No, I don't have... Alright. No, this isn't... Well, this is my office, but this isn't the... What's going on here?
Psst! Stanley!
Ah!
Come over here! In the vent! I want to show you something!
It's a coffee nut.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past, and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC. You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013 when the game originally launched?
Yes.
Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Demonstration. Oh, okay. It's actually pretty cool. I think these are actual awards that they got for the game. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. New video game releasing today.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism. 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Going this way? Yep. Going here. Of course. It's maintenance room. Can't go in there. Hey, get up there. Can I jump? Still can't jump.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
Alright. I think I'm gonna end this episode here. Yeah. But thank you for watching. Stay beautiful, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.